Prince Harry's biggest achievement is now facing one of its toughest moments yet. Tom Bower's book Betrayal has pulled back the curtain on the Invictus Games and sparked a wave of serious questions. Several major sponsors have already stepped away. The charity's financial dealings are attracting increasing attention. And a newly surfaced government document containing a heavily blacked-out section has only fueled even more speculation. Make sure you stay with us until the very end, because what is reportedly hidden inside that redacted document could leave you genuinely shocked. As these revelations continue to unfold, Harry and Meghan are said to be reacting with growing frustration as the pressure surrounding the controversy reaches a whole new level.
Are having a conniption fit over these reveals. You know how they release parts of a book throughout certain media entities?
Yeah.
Like right before they come out to tease it. Well, the Times is getting all of the best Tom Bower bits for
Harry's biggest achievement is now facing one of its toughest moments yet. Tom Bower's book Betrayal has pulled back the curtain on the Invictus Games and sparked a wave of serious questions. Several major sponsors have already stepped away. The charity's financial dealings are attracting increasing attention. And a newly surfaced government document containing a heavily blacked-out section has only fueled even more speculation. Make sure you stay with us until the very end, because what is reportedly hidden inside that redacted document could leave you genuinely shocked. As these revelations continue to unfold, Harry and Meghan are said to be reacting with growing frustration as the pressure surrounding the controversy reaches a whole new level.
Suggests that the 2025 Games in Canada were overshadowed by Meghan Markle's public appearances, referring to the event as the Meghan Games. He cites Canadian executives who allegedly felt Meghan was a distraction and that her presence was more about bling than veteran rehabilitation.
Invictus Games were established with one clear purpose, which was to put wounded and injured military veterans at the very heart of the event. From the beginning, the mission was to honor their courage, recognize their sacrifices, and give them a reason to feel inspired again after everything they had endured in service to their countries. For many veterans, losing a limb or living with a life-changing injury can completely reshape everyday life, bringing not only physical challenges but also deep emotional pain, depression, and uncertainty about the future. The Games were created to help rebuild that sense of hope, restore confidence, and remind those men and women that their strength and resilience deserve to be celebrated.
Invictus Games began with a profoundly noble mission to use sport to help recovery for wounded veterans. But lately, the math isn't mathing on their mission and the way that they run their foundation. And
to Tom Bower, however, the original mission of the Invictus Games slowly began to drift away from its intended focus. He argues that instead of the spotlight remaining firmly on the wounded veterans, the event was created to celebrate. Increasing attention shifted toward Prince Harry and Meghan themselves. Bower further claims that as the Games expanded and attracted more global coverage, Meghan's own priorities became more visible, alleging that she used the high-profile event to draw attention to her fashion choices and promote her lifestyle brand. A venture he suggests was already struggling long before it had gained widespread public recognition.
He's made several highly critical claims regarding the Invictus Games, which we're checking out today, describing them as having become a vehicle for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's personal brand, rather than focusing on veterans, which I can say as a royal reporter, Scott, is something that I hear every Invictus Games, that there are some competitors that feel like Harry and Meghan suck all of the oxygen out of the room and it's not about them.
Harry and the Invictus Foundation have firmly pushed back against these allegations, arguing that Tom Bower's asterisk betrayal presents an unfair and misleading picture of the Games. Even so, the controversy has continued to grow, leaving many people wondering why these accusations seem to generate such a strong reaction whenever they resurface. What makes Bower's account especially notable, according to his own reporting, is that he did not rely solely on second-hand information. He attended the Vancouver Invictus Games in person and based parts of his book on what he says he personally witnessed during the event. In Betrayal *, Bower alleges that money connected to the Invictus Games was spent on private jet travel, luxury 5-star accommodations, and personal transportation for Harry and Meghan. He also claims that staff members were instructed to address Meghan as ma'am and Harry as sir, and he went as far as describing the Vancouver event as the Meghan Games, arguing that the focus had shifted away from the veterans. Those observations, according to Bauer, came directly from his experience at the Games. The story took another dramatic turn when questions about the organization's finances began attracting even greater attention. An independent researcher named Rachel Maxwell reportedly examined publicly available financial records and concluded that some of what Bauer had alleged deserved closer scrutiny. Attention then turned to a contract between the Canadian government and the organizers of the 2025 Invictus Games that was eventually released to the public. Although the document became available, reviewers noticed that one important section had been completely redacted. That discovery immediately sparked fresh debate because many people expected the agreement to be fully transparent. The concealed portion was reportedly linked to the event's operating budget and licensing fees, raising further questions because funding provided by the Canadian government is widely understood to come from taxpayer money. As a result, critics argued that the public should be able to examine exactly how those funds were allocated. The decision to remove that section from public view fueled even more speculation, with some questioning whether the missing financial details contained information that organizers preferred not to disclose.
He's having a lot of issues. So I did write a piece this week, it was an exclusive, about how there are funding issues for Vancouver. So we know he is going to Birmingham this summer to prep for the games next year. And one of the reasons he's going is because he needs money.
Discovery led to even more questions. Why had this document, which many believed should have been easily available for public review, suddenly become so difficult to access? That unexpected lack of transparency only added to the growing speculation, with critics wondering whether important information was being kept out of the public eye and asking if there was a reason certain details were no longer being openly available.
Recent information about the Invictus Games Foundation and its Endeavor Fund have come to light and are painting a really bad picture of the situation.
According to publicly available reports, the charity brought in more funding than it had during the previous year, but the financial figures raised fresh questions for some observers. Despite the increase in overall income, the amount reportedly directed to organizations that support wounded and injured veterans fell noticeably. Critics also pointed out that spending focused directly on veterans appeared to remain largely unchanged, even though the charity had access to significantly more money. At the same time, reported increases in executive salaries, cash reserves, and legal costs drew additional attention. Those numbers prompted some observers to question why the organization's funding had grown, while the share of money that appeared to go directly toward helping veterans seemed comparatively smaller.
People are a little upset about where the money is going because right now there's been a 63% drop in actual grants to wounded warriors, despite the fact that they have more money in their bank than ever from carryover. And in Vancouver, they brought in, it was around 62 million. 50% of that was from the government of Canada and BC, meaning that was taxpayers.
The controversy surrounding the Invictus Games continued to build. One of the organization's most significant corporate supporters, Boeing, decided to end its sponsorship. The move marked a major challenge for Prince Harry and the Invictus team, as Boeing had long been considered one of the game's largest and most important sponsors. Some commentators have suggested that the timing of the company's decision may have been influenced by the attention generated by Tom Bauer's betrayal. Since the sponsorship reportedly came to an end not long after the book was released. While no public evidence has confirmed a connection between the two events, the close timing has continued to spark debate and has added even more attention to the growing scrutiny surrounding the Invictus Games.
Yacht grifter who is now calling on a boycott of the Invictus Games, saying there is something not sitting right with this charity. Charities that have something to hide should not be trusted, especially with so much NGO fraud being exposed in the last few years. And they are calling on Boeing and American Airlines to think twice before donating.
Pressure did not stop there. Australia also withdrew its reported $9 million government funding commitment for the Invictus Games, adding another major setback for the organization. Reports further claim that the Invictus Foundation's chief executive learned about the decision only minutes before the government officially announced its budget, making the news even more unexpected. Around the same period, an Invictus Games Foundation board member quietly resigned, adding to the growing sense of uncertainty surrounding the organization. Taken together, these developments have fueled the perception among some critics that support from several individuals and institutions that once publicly backed Prince Harry's flagship project has gradually begun to fade.
In Australia has axed funding for Invictus Australia from this year's federal budget as the organisation's chief executive has urged the government to reconsider this decision. This is all sort of happening just as we speak, as we go to filming. Now, I've spoken to sources close to Harry and, of course, they're shocked. They say, they're blindsided by this, as was the organisation in Australia.
Reports the next Invictus Games are scheduled for Birmingham in 2027. The UK government has committed up to £26 million in public funds, despite the city effectively declaring bankruptcy in 2023. It only exited that status in February of this year. With roughly 15 months to go, Birmingham has just 11 unnamed sponsors contributing an estimated £4 million combined.
You're dealing with taxpayer monies. People are kind of like, hey, why are we not buying prosthetics?
Right. And more importantly, you're right. Are the wounded warriors getting this money that they deserve?